The setup of the executive, a person that sort of like oversees the government, also is greatly different between the article system and the Constitution. Under the Articles of Confederation system, there is no executive. The only branch in the Articles of Confederation system is the legislative branch. There's a Congress. That's it. There is no executive branch. There's no president or a person like a president that oversees like the entire national government. And again, you can understand why they did this. They were afraid of another King George III. So they didn't want to break away from England to form another government that they thought would be just as bad. So they avoided putting one singular person in power over the government. Obviously, there's some flaws with this. If you don't have someone to enforce the laws, if you don't have one person that can quickly make a decision, again, you've created a flawed system of government. So there is no executive under the Articles of Confederation system. This clearly changes with the Constitution. The position of a president is created. An extra branch besides the legislative branch is added, the executive branch, led by one person, a president. And essentially, his job is to enforce the laws that Congress creates. There were lots of ideas at the Constitutional Convention that were sort of like pitched that weren't adopted. Obviously, we know that they picked a singular president. We'll get into that later. But there were lots of other ideas. An idea was pitched to have a three-person executive committee, like three presidents. That seriously was under consideration. Or making the president, instead of being elected every 4 years, having to be elected every year. They thought, like, hey, maybe just every 4 years with no term limits. So you just keep getting elected over and over again. Or a single 5-year term, direct election by the people, or that the executive would be selected by Congress, which is kind of like how the British system works today with Parliament and the Prime Minister. All these ideas were selected. Obviously, the every 4 years with no term limits was the one that was eventually like adopted. But the others in red received serious consideration. We know today that we have a one person, 4 years for each term that they're elected. Today, there are term limits. You can only be elected to a maximum of 2 terms, but that doesn't happen for the first part of American history. And we understand that the Electoral College is the foundation for the presidential election system. This group of electors that comes together and basically decides who each state is supporting for the president election. So something also that we'll get into a lot more detail about. But obviously, the Constitution establishes a one-person presidency elected every 4 years.